Hey, so it is really a privilege to be able to call Stephen a co-laborer of mine. And it is because of Jordan Tiff that this crazy collision of an encounter was able to happen. And I'm really excited about the truth that Stephen's going to bring today. Stephen is a man after God's heart, and he is currently at ETS with me, but he's going to finish probably before me still as well. Right now, I'm going to pray. Well, actually, I'm going to ask Josh and Claude to pray for Stephen, and we're going to learn something tonight.
Father, bless Stephen. Give him your words. Let him communicate your truth, and let us be receptive to it. In Jesus' name, amen.
Love that. Simple.
Excuse me.
Yeah, like I said, I'm a friend of Jordan Tiff's originally. That's how I kind of got into this position. I'm going to wait for the mic stuff to get worked out. That's how I got here. I wanted to start out. I'm not big into making you laugh and I'm into making you think. So I want to challenge you a little bit. So that said, I have a rule with my youth ministry. I'm going to treat you like adults until you force me to treat you like kids. That's my rule. So as far as I'm concerned, you're all adults tonight. I'm going to talk to you like you're adults because you are.
I don't think so. You try.
Hope you can handle that. Part of being an adult is listening, being engaged. If I ask a question, feel free to shout it on me. Be thinking with me. Try and do your best to hear what I'm laying out. A little bit about myself, so you know who you're talking to. Get a range of the experiences I've had. You know what I have been through. Maybe something resonates with you. Feel a little bit closer as we get into this. Who's the guy you're talking to? You're talking to a guy born in Houston, but who lived in Singapore for all of middle school and half of high school. Came back after that. You're talking to a guy who lived with a broken back for 6 years, and then had 4 bolts put in his spine to fix that in high school. You're talking to a guy who thought he was a homosexual at one point. And you're talking to a guy who battles a pornography addiction. You're talking to a guy who's been legally obese, and to a guy who's been bulimic to try and fight that. You're talking to a guy who has a brother who is mentally retarded, has Down syndrome, and helped raise him his whole life. You're talking to a guy who slept through high school, getting A's and B's, aced my SATs, and then went off to A&M and flunked out after 2 years because I decided not to go to class. I was that lazy. Here's the one that matters though, okay? You're talking to an adopted child of God. And here's the question for the night. The question that we need to answer by the end of this is, why do I get to be an adopted child of God? Why does a total screw-up like me, expelled from college, angry, bulimic, born addicted Stephen, why does he get to be adopted by God, the creator of the universe, loved and cherished? That's the question we got to answer. A little bit more about me. I really like philosophy. I like to ask questions, and I like to search for answers to those questions. I really don't like when a question is asked and you can't find a good answer. I want something to fill that space. And that's part of why I love the Bible so much. I love this book. I spend my entire life studying this book. I'm spending years of my life learning the original languages so I can know this book better because it answers questions. And there's a lot of questions that the Bible answers that people think are unanswerable. There's questions that get asked all the time. Things like, which came first, the chicken or the egg? You know that question? It's not really a question. The Bible answers that question. The chicken came first. Genesis 1:21 says, God created the sea monsters and every living creature that lives that moves, with which the waters swarmed after their kind, and every winged bird after its kind. And God saw that it was good. God blessed them and said, be fruitful and multiply, fill the waters and the seas, let the birds multiply on the earth. So according to the Bible, God created the winged birds, chickens have wings, and then told them to multiply. And the way they multiply is they have eggs. So it's not really a question. Chicken came first. Question answered. Theology helps in answering questions too. Theology is taking taking what the Bible says, looking at the world around you, and putting it together to answer questions. That's why I love theology so much. It answers questions. There's a common theological concept called God's omnipotence. You might have heard of that. God is all-powerful and can do anything. So a common question that gets thrown at that is, can God make a rock so big that he can't move? The answer to that, if you know your Bible, you know good theology, is that no, God is sovereign over all that he creates, and so he cannot make a rock so big that he can't move it. There's plenty of things that God can't do. And that shocks people sometimes, because I thought God could do anything. No, the Bible actually specifically says God can't lie. Titus 1:2. In his introduction to the book of Titus, Paul says, in the hope of eternal, which God, who cannot lie, promised before the age. Right there, he kind of assumes, that, yeah, God can't lie. Something that he can't do. Again, Numbers 23:19. God is not human, that he should lie. There we have God cannot lie, and they tie it to his nature as not human. His nature precludes him from that action of lying, so he can't do it. He can't do things that are contrary to his nature. His nature is to be sovereign over things he creates. Therefore, God cannot make a rock so big that he can't move it. Question asked, question answered. How about, will there always be pain in the world? The Bible answers that one too. No. Breathe a sigh of relief. Revelation 21:4. Describing the New Jerusalem, the end of the book, right? The best chapter in the Bible, Revelation 21. And he will wipe away every tear from their eyes. There will no longer be any death. There will no longer be any mourning or crying or pain. The former things have passed away. All this to say, I like questions and I want answers. And the Bible has lots and lots of answers if you look. And the question for tonight is, why does he get to be adopted by God? Why does he, this messed up, sinful man standing in front of you, get to be a child of God? Why do I get to go to the New Jerusalem where there will be no more pain? Don't answer that question too quickly. If you grown up in church, gospel, sure. And you just move on. That's a huge question, and the answer doesn't always make sense unless you think about it a lot. We're going to try to answer this question with a little bit of theology and a little bit of Bible. First of all, we'll start with the theology. There's a big theological concept. We kind of talked about it already. We call it God's omnipotence. I'm going to call it God's autonomy. Big, fancy word. It means self-law. God rules himself. He gets to do what he wants. That's what it really boils down to. God gets to do what he wants. We don't get to tell God what to do. He does what he wants. And kind of the caveat on that is he only does things that is in conformity with his nature. So, like we said, God can't lie. He's not going to do that. That's not who he is. His nature is truth. So it's outside of his nature to lie. But the fact is, God gets to do what he wants. What he says goes. He is autonomous. We are not. God's self-existence, his self-law, is actually the prime factor in determining reality. So here's a question for you that we got to answer. How do you know what is real? How do you know what is? It's not with this philosophical mumbo-jumbo, like reality is this way, we live in it. Yeah, sure. Taste, touch, feel, see, this is what's real. How do you know? Have you seen The Matrix? Like Morpheus? Like, what is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can see, what you can taste and smell, then real is just electrical signals interpreted by your brain. How do you know that you're not living in some sort of a fantasy world that's been pulled over your eyes and you're actually been turned into a battery for a machine? How do you know you're not the figment of the imagination of some brain that's sitting in a jar on an alien of some galaxy that's far away? And how do you even know what a galaxy is? How do you know what is? What is? What is being? These are big, crazy questions, I know. I'm going to try and break it down. Has anybody here taken Spanish at all? School? All right. I went into Spanish, and the first day we learned the verb to be. My teacher would come in and he'd say, the verb to be, and we were all supposed to say, soy, eres, es. Soy, I am, eres, you are, es, he is. I am, you are, he is. That's the verb to be. Soy, I am, I exist, right? Did anybody else have that experience? Learning the verb to be and going, what does this actually mean? But you are something, right? How do you know what is? How do you know what being bees? I'm going to tell you the Christian answer to that question, okay? Big, crazy concept, hard to grasp. Here's the answer: God. Shock out. No, you actually knew this already. You just didn't know you knew it. Think about Exodus, book of Exodus, all right? Moses, he's off in the wilderness, he's tending his sheep, he sees up on the side of the mountain, burning bush. He says, I'll turn away to see this wondrous sight, right? He goes up and he sees the bush, and the bush starts talking to him. And it says, take off your shoes because you're standing on holy ground. So he does, and then they have a little bit of interaction. Finally, the voice tells him, it's God. He tells him, go to my people in Israel, in Egypt, free my people. Okay, and what does Moses ask God? He asks him, he tells him, behold, I'm going to Israel, and I will say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you. Now, they may say to me, what is his name? What shall I say to them? What does God say to them? I am. God said to Moses, I am who I am. Thus you shall say to the sons of Israel, I am has sent you. Soy. Soy es. Soy es. I am. God is. He exists where others do not. His very name, the most cherished, coveted name of God, the one where the scribes, when they would write it in the Bible, would have to wash their hands before and after writing it, because it's that revered. This name, Yahweh, if you know it, that's the Hebrew. Growing up in churchy circles, you probably know that. The most revered name is I exist. I am existence. God is sheer existence. It's the present tense first person to be verb. God is what is. He am what he am. Everything exists that is, that bees. It gets its definition from him. He defines reality. That's the Christian answer to the question, how do we know what is? What is real? God is. That's what Christians believe. God's autonomy means he gets to do what he wants. And we can try and fight it, but only because he lets us try and fight it. And ultimately, he's going to get his way. It's either God's way or God's way. And there is no third option in that, in the long run. Every knee will bow before him. Make no mistake, he is in control. We are not. We see it all over the Bible. You guys know the book of Job? My favorite book of the Bible for a long time. Job, he's living back probably 2300 BC. He is the righteous man on earth. God actually describes him that way. The most righteous man who ever lived on earth. Satan and God have this back and forth in heaven that Job doesn't know about. Satan says, I'm going to try and break Job. You say that he will never curse you, I'm going to get him to curse you. I'll take away all of his blessings. So he does. He kills his entire family except for Job's wife. He takes away all of his financial benefits and wealth. He afflicts him with boils and sores to the point where Job has nothing to do but sit in a pile of ashes and scrape himself with broken pieces of pottery. That's what the text actually says. Imagine that kind of pain and suffering. He wishes he could die. He begins lamenting being alive. He says, just, why am I here? Why was I born? Answer this question for me, God. He spends 30 chapters talking to his friends, and his friends all say, you must have sinned. Only bad things happen to bad people. You must have some sin that brought this upon you. Repent, tell God that you're sorry for this sin that you obviously committed, Job, and then everything will be well. 30 chapters he's talking to his friends this way, and by the end of it, Job gets really arrogant. Completely prideful. He says, behold, let the Almighty answer to me. I would number my steps like a prince, I would approach him. He's essentially saying, I haven't done anything wrong, God. I'll show you. You don't have the right to do this to me. And he's right about the first part. God actually said he hadn't done anything wrong to deserve this particular suffering. This was all God and Satan having a little wager. And by the way, Job never curses God. Satan lost that wager. We don't even see Satan really after chapter 3. It's like he tried to do it. Job didn't curse God. He failed. He walked away. But then Job gets a little bit arrogant in his suffering. And his arrogance has to be dealt with. He's not right about the second part. God does have the right to do that to him because he's God. And God shows up and talks to him. And here's the thing. God could have said, he could have shown up and told him, look, Job had this little thing going on with Satan. I was proving to him that you wouldn't reject me. You did it. Great job. I'll restore all of this stuff that he took away from you. We'll go on our merry way. He didn't do that. Instead, God shows up and he says one of my favorite verses. He says to Job as he's sitting there saying, I will challenge God. I'll tell you what's what. He says, Job, stand up. Brace yourself like a man. I will ask you. You will instruct me. Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Tell me if you know. Oh, mighty, powerful man. He just rips into Job for a few chapters. And eventually, Job says, I covered my mouth. I spoke of things I did not know. You were right, I'm wrong. God never explains to Job why all this happened to him. God just shows up and says, I can do what I want. I'm God. You're not. That's the reality of who God is. The Apostle Paul says the same thing about God. Romans chapter 9. He says the exact same thing after essentially laying out the doctrine of sin. He says, on the contrary, who are you, O man, to answer back to God? Will the thing molded say to the molder, why did you make me this way? No. We're the created things. We don't get to tell our Creator how things are. He tells us how they are. What he says goes. If that's true, if that's the reality of the situation, if what he says goes, there's a very important question we have to ask, and that question is, what has he said? Right? If what he says goes, what has he said? And the answer is this book. He said all of this. Part of why. Since I believe that, what he says goes, I'm spending my life studying this thing. If God exists and is truly autonomous, all-powerful, and has given certain revelation about himself, we need to find that revelation and follow it. We need to do what it says. Take his word for it, not ours. We're about to talk about something that I don't want you to tune out, so listen up. You have heard this message, what I'm about to say, probably at least once before. Some of you maybe thousands of times. If this is like your 1,001st time, I don't care. Listen close. This is the most important message you will ever hear in your life. It's called the gospel. Don't turn your brain off when you hear the word gospel. I'm going to try and give it to you in a way you haven't heard it before. I'm going to give you, essentially, the gospel is what's all throughout this book. I'm going to present it to you as the Bible broken up into 3 parts, okay? 3 parts of the Bible. Part 1. God created everything, and he created it good. Genesis 1:1. At the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. He's creating, after he creates everything, he calls it good. He creates man, he calls him very good. He tells Adam, the man that he creates, tend the garden, name all the animals, be fruitful and multiply, and don't eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Those are the 4 instructions he gives to Adam at the very beginning. That's part 1. It's 1 chapter long. I guess 2 chapters long. Chapter 2 is also the creation story. Part 2 of the Bible is man rebelled against God and received a curse. This is where we're going to spend a little bit of time. So if you want to get your Bibles out, turn to Genesis 3. Genesis chapter 3. Click over if you guys are all techie. I still like the paper thing. Genesis chapter 3 is, in my opinion, the second most important chapter in the Bible. If you don't understand Genesis chapter 3, you don't understand how people are, how the world is, your purpose, life, Christianity. None of it makes sense without properly understanding Genesis chapter 3. This is where all of the answers lie. That part of the Bible has 2 points, right? God rebelled against man, and he received a curse. So let's talk about the rebelled against man part first. You remember the story, he creates everything, puts it in the garden, calls it good. Genesis chapter 3 starts with the words, now the serpent was more crafty than any other beast in the field that the Lord God had made. He said to the woman, has God actually said, let's pause right there. That statement, has God actually said, is at the forefront of every major conflict in our world today. Social, political, global. Has God really said that he created the earth in 6 days? Has God really said that homosexuality is a sin? Has God really said not to have sex before you're married? Has God really said that Muslims and Hindus and Buddhists and atheists and everyone who doesn't believe in Jesus is going to hell? Has God really said, women, you shouldn't get abortions? Has God really said, love your neighbor as yourself? Has God really said, there are two sexes, male and female? Has God really said, obey your parents, even when they're stupid and wrong, and you clearly know better than they do? Has God really said those things? Now, asking that question isn't wrong. Asking the question, has God said this, is good. It drives us to answer the question, has he? The way you answer that question might be right or wrong. And the way you get the right answer is you look what he actually has said. It's in here. So the servant asks Eve this question. Has God really said, you shall not eat from any tree in the garden? Not allowed to eat from any of them? Eve clarifies for him. Her response in verse 2, from the fruit of the trees of the garden we may eat, but from the fruit of the tree which is in the middle of the garden, God has said, you shall not eat from it, or touch it, or you will die. Now, was she right about what God said? Did God really say, you shall not eat from it, or touch it, or you will surely die? Yeah. Let's look back at when he gave the command, chapter 2, verse 16. The Lord God commanded the man, saying, from any tree in the garden, let me make sure I can see it. From any tree of the garden you may eat freely, but from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat, for in the day you eat from it you will surely die. Question, did Eve get God's command correct? No, what'd she add? Touch it. She said, don't eat from it or touch it, or you will surely die. There was a communication breakdown somewhere between God giving the command to Adam, Adam giving the command to Eve, and Eve communicating it to the serpent. Somewhere what God really said got twisted. And I can be honest, this scares me to death. Because that's my job. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm trying to clearly communicate to you what God has really said. And the very first time we see anyone in the Bible try to do that, they failed miserably. So I take this act very seriously. It is a huge responsibility to preach the Word of God. So I don't want to get it wrong. I have to be careful not to add to or subtract from God's Word. We want to say exactly what He said. But that's aside from that. Let's keep going. Question. Why did Eve eat the fruit? Don't miss this, okay? Why did Eve eat the fruit? Verse 3. The serpent says to her, you surely will not die. Excuse me, verse 4. You surely will not die. For God knows that the day from you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. You'll be like God, knowing, or I think a better translation would be revealing good and evil. Same word in the Hebrew. You will be like God, knowing good and evil. How does God know good and evil? How well does He know it? He defines it. He says what's good and what's evil. He declares it to be so. He declares it by His own character. His own nature defines what is good and evil. And verse 6 tells us a little bit more about why she ate the fruit. When the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was a light to the eyes, and that the tree was desirable to make one wise, she took from it and ate it, and she gave also to her husband who was with her, and he ate it. Don't try to blame this on the women, guys. They wanted to be like God. They wanted to reveal what was good and what was evil. They wanted to be wise. They rebelled against God, and all of mankind has been doing it ever since then. That's part 1 of point 2, right? Man rebelled against God. Part 2 of point 2 is he received a curse. What was that curse? It's a few verses later. But we've already hit on the major point. What's the outworking of this curse that man received? What did God say would happen if they ate the fruit? You will die. The day you eat of it, you will surely die. Death itself exists because of this historical event. This actually happened on earth, and we die because of it. Death is what this whole book is about. It's one continuous story, starting in this chapter, about how death entered the world, and it's telling a story of how it's leaving it, slowly but surely. And in the end, there will be no more death, no more pain, no more crying, no more tears. Here's the reality. You are going to die. I mean that. Because of Adam and Eve, your ancestors, you inherited the condition of sin, and the just punishment of that condition is death. It's going to happen to you. This isn't an abstract reality, okay? That's the reality of your condition. And I'm sorry to be such a downer, but I want to be clear about what the reality is. Everyone is going to die. Anybody who's been around someone a dying loved one understands the depth and seriousness of this reality. And we can't ignore it. That's the world's answer to this question. We're going to die, what do? The world says ignore it. Do your best to be happy while you're here on earth. Try to forget the fact that you're going to die one day. Be as happy as you can. Don't let the existential dread sink in. Ignore it. Push it down. Ignore it. Ignore it. That's the wrong answer. That is not the right answer to the question, what do we do about this? Even when God was dishing out the punishment of death, he gave a message of hope. Back in Genesis 3. Right, skip down a few verses. They eat, they become aware, they hide. Good luck with that. They come out of hiding, and God says to them, why'd you eat the fruit? Adam says, well, the woman you gave to me, she gave it to me, and I ate it. And so she says, woman, why'd you eat the fruit? She said, the serpent tempted me. So God turns to the serpent. And he starts dishing out punishments. And he says to the serpent, because you have done this, cursed are you more than all cattle, more than every beast of the field. On your belly you will go, and dust you will eat all the days of your life. And I will put enmity between you and the woman, between your seed and her seed. He shall bruise you on the head, and you shall bruise him on the heel. What does that all mean? Look at verse 15 again. That's the important part. He says to the serpent, your seed and the woman's seed will be at enmity. They'll be fighting. Seed might also be translated offspring, right? Your kids. But it's important to recognize this is singular. We're offspring singular. We're seed singular. A particular child of your lineage singular. Woman will crush the serpent's head, bruise the serpent's head. You shall bruise him on the heel. Spoiler alert, that seed is Jesus. This is the first verse in the Bible that specifically mentions Jesus, the second person of the Trinity. Genesis chapter 3. So part 1, God created everything, he created it good. 2 chapters long. Part 2, man rebelled against God and received a curse. Part 3 is 1,186 chapters long. It's the rest of this. Everything that follows. What are we going to do about death? This whole thing is one big long story that's looking for this seed. This guy who's going to finish the curse, who's going to crush the serpent's head. And this is what's called the gospel. Genesis 3:15 is the good news. That somebody's coming who's going to fix this. We're going to die, but somebody's coming who's going to fix it. Who's going to crush the serpent's head. That's the second coming, by the way. Resurrection is the second coming. The striking of his heel, that's the crucifixion. All right there. Types and shadows in Genesis chapter 3, verse 15. It's called the Proto-Evangelium, first gospel. First time the gospel shows up in the Bible is 3 chapters in. Here in Genesis 3, we have a huge problem. Everyone's going to die. And in verse 15, we have a huge promise. Someone's coming who's going to fix it. So, the next question we ask ourselves is, who is this guy? Who's going to fix it? Because we don't know it's Jesus yet, right? When we're reading the book, that comes later. We're reading this book, we get to chapter 5, right? And we see this list of all these names. Adam has kids, and then he lives for so many years, and then he dies. And his kids have so many kids, and then he lives for so many years, and then he dies. His kids have so many kids, and he lives for so many years, and he dies. And there's this repetition, and then he died, and then he died, and then he died, and then he died. We're looking for this guy who's going to beat death. The guy who's not going to die. The guy who's not going to sin. So where is he? He's to chapter 6. We see Noah. He's a pretty nice guy, right? Builds the ark, and make it through the flood. But then, what happens? He sins right after he gets off the ark, and then, spoiler alert, he dies. What about Abraham? He's one of God's favorites, right? He even tells Abraham, from your seed, all the nations of the earth will be blessed. But then, maybe he's the seed? No, he dies. What about Isaac, his son? Right, we're going to follow his lineage. Isaac, no, he dies. Jacob, no, he dies. He has 12 sons, tribes of Israel, but they all die. Are any of these guys the seed? Where is he? We follow the nation of Israel for a while. We come across guys like David, man after God's own heart. But he's also a crazy sinner, and guess what? He dies. Who is this guy? Where is the seed? What about Solomon, his son? No, he dies. Isaiah, nice guy. No, he dies. Daniel who actually receives a revelation that says that there's going to be an anointed one, a Messiah, who comes on the cloud, the Ancient of Days, saves the people from their sins. Oh, Daniel dies too. Who is this seed? Where is he? The Old Testament ends, and he hasn't come. Everyone's died. And then you get to Matthew chapter 1, verse 1. The record of the genealogy of Jesus, the Messiah, son of David, son of Abraham. The seed. You're reading this as a first century Jew, and you're going, wait a second. This is him. This is the guy. Promised it to Abraham, that it was going to be his seed, who blessed all the nations of the earth. Promised to David, he was going to sit on his throne. The Messiah, he's here. And you're reading this, and you're reading about Jesus, you're going through the book of Matthew, and he's not sitting. He's not doing all this thing that all of the other characters have done. He's going to do it. This is the guy. He's the seed. It's here. All right, we got it. And then he dies. Wait a second. Jesus, the Messiah, son of David, son of Abraham, he's not supposed to die. He's the seed. He's going to beat death. And then he gets twisted on his head. How does he actually beat death? Not by not dying, by coming back to life. Nobody's ever pulled off that one before. The resurrection is the hope we have. Receiving Jesus first. You can be resurrected by believing in Jesus. That's the message of the Gospels. That is the gospel. Believe that Jesus is the Son of God, the Christ, and you will have eternal what? Opposite of death. Death has been fixed. The curse has been reversed. This message is all throughout the Gospels. Life. Believe in Jesus and you will have life. Eternal life. And it's going to happen by first dying and then being literally brought back to life on a new earth. That's what Christians believe. And yes, it sounds crazy unless it's true. Remember our big question. Why does he get to be adopted by God? Why does this screw-up get to be a child of God? I'm going to give you 2 answers. The first answer is one that you're not going to like, and I didn't like for a long time. It's because God said so. No, I hate that answer. I grew up hating that answer. my parents, right? Go make your bed. Why? Because I said so. No, give me a real reason. Like, just because you said so, that's not good enough. But then, I started realizing when I got that at church, I had the same feeling, like, because God said so, I don't like that. But then I realized everything that's ever happened is kind of because God said so. Think back to Genesis 1:1, right? In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. What does he say? Let there be light. God said, let there be light, and there was light. Why was there light? Because God said so. Literally. So that's the first most basic answer to why do we get to be adopted by God? Because he said so. Now you can't always jump straight to that answer. You got to put that on there. You can't just be like, why is Tom Brady the greatest of all time? Because God said so. That doesn't work. You have to find out if he actually said it. You have to do the work. But if you ultimately get back to that answer, that's ultimately the right answer. If you do the work. But I know that was not as satisfying, so I'm going to give you a second answer. Why does he get to be adopted by God? Why does he get to be a child of God? Answer, because he believes the gospel. That's what John 1:12 says. To all those who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. That's all throughout the book of John, by the way. John says it over and over and over again. John 20:31, the thesis statement of the book of John, believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and by believing, have life in his name. Life, believe. Those are the two components of the gospel. I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. I have come to you, you may have life, have it abundantly. Those who come to the Father, those who the Father gives to me, all will come, I will never cast out. For God so loved the world that he created that he gave, start that over. For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whoever believes in him will not die. I know you all heard perish in your heads just now. Die. Instead, we'll have life. All three of it right there. That's why you memorize that verse so young, because it is the gospel summed up. Let's wrap this all together. What did we learn? First of all, what God says goes. And God has said, you are a rebellious sinner and you're going to die. If those two things are true, and I believe wholeheartedly that they're true, and nothing else follows from it, God is a jerk. If that's all it is, what God says goes, and God said you're going to die, there is no hope there. But with the extra ending of the message, that all you have to do to reverse this is believe. Believe with your heart. Paul says it in so many places, all throughout the Bible. Believe in the Lord Jesus Christ and you will be saved. Saved from what? Death. You and your whole household. Acts 16:31. If you confess with your mouth and believe in your heart that Jesus, you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. Romans 10:9. By Christ, everyone who believes is freed from everything from which you could not be freed by the law of Moses. Acts 13:39. Ephesians 2:8 and 9. You might know this one. For it is by grace you have been saved through faith. Or another word for that, belief. Exact same word in the original language. Now, if you actually do believe that Jesus is the Christ, the seed from Genesis 3:15, the Messiah from Daniel 9, the virgin-born sign to the house of David from Isaiah 7, the king who is going to reign eternally from 2 Samuel 7, the offspring promised to Abraham in Genesis 22, if you believe he is the Christ and you want to be his disciple, there's stuff that necessarily happens after that. There's this stuff that comes from believing that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God. That stuff is kind of what this weekend is about. But that stuff isn't what saves you. We're going to talk about that stuff tomorrow. The stuff that follows if you believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God. So you have to determine what is God's will for your life after that point. But if you haven't believed, his will is believe. Ultimately, every knee will bow. I want to get this belief thing in place because all that stuff, the works, the good things that you can do, don't mean in Genesis 3:15, to crush the serpent's head. Now let's look at the theme verse of the weekend. You're thinking, that's backwards. Should we do that at the beginning? I know. Don't worry about it. Philippians 2:14 through 16. This is the theme verse for the weekend. It says, "Do all things without grumbling or disputing, so that you will prove yourselves to be blameless and innocent, children of God, above reproach in the midst of a crooked and perverse generation, among whom you appear as lights in the world, holding fast the word of life, so that in the day of Christ I will have reason to glory, because I did not run in vain or toil in vain." The reason I waited till the end of this was that I was hoping that with all of that as a backdrop, the things that I bolded and underlined would stick out to you without doing too much explaining. So what does he say? First of all, do all things without grumbling. That's part of the stuff. Do all things without grumbling or disputing. That's the stuff. Why do you do all things without grumbling or disputing? So that you will prove yourselves to be blameless, innocent, children of God. And of course, how do you become children of God? You get adopted. And it isn't all the doing without grumbling that gets you adopted. Doing without grumbling is prefaced on, that's just proof that you've been adopted. It's not something that gets you adopted. That's not how you become a child of God. That's something you do in response to being a child of God. It proves that you're a child of God. The second part is bolded and underlined. Among whom you appear as lights in the world, holding fast to the word of life. What is the word of life? It's the gospel. What is life? The opposite of death. Genesis 3:15. See, crush the serpent's head. John 3:16. Whoever believes in him will not die, but have life. The word of life is the gospel. It's the message that death has been killed. Life, eternal life, true life, resurrection after the dead life is possible only because Jesus, the Christ, the Son of God, did it first. And you can have it only by believing. John 20:31. These are written so that you will believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, by believing have life in his name. But none of that happens if the gospel isn't your starting point. If you don't believe the gospel, you got nothing. You're rearranging the furniture on the deck of the Titanic as it plummets into hell. And that's not an overstatement. All the good stuff you do doesn't matter. You must believe first. Believe, if you hold fast to the gospel, the word of life, you will be an adopted child of God. You will do all things without grumbling. You will be lights in the world, city lights. That's what we're talking about tomorrow. That's what we're going to be doing tomorrow. We're going to be being lights in the world tomorrow. But if you don't believe the gospel, anything you do tomorrow will be worthless. So don't waste it. Believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God. By believing, have life in his name. You do that, and the rest of this weekend, the rest of your life will actually be much brighter. And like Paul, you will have a reason to glory on the day of Christ. Believe Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God. And by him. We're going to sing some praises to our Lord here. The reason we do this is because the words are true. It's not so that you can feel something. It's so that you can tell God who he is and thank him for being that way. And we can do it together. That's why we're singing. When you're singing, be thinking about just how powerful, just how mighty, just how in control, how awesome this God is. And say it. And if you don't believe it, start. Let's pray. Father, thank you for getting these people here tonight. Thank you so much for your Son, the Messiah, the Christ, the seed, the way, the truth, and the life. Father, as we enter this time and we can just say who you are to you, to others, work on us, humble us, let us realize the immense gift that you've given us, the ability to believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God. Anyone here who does not believe that, I pray, Father, please let them believe it now, not a second soon. Always, Father, forgive us of our sins, that your will be done above all else. And so, your Son's name, with